Good morning and welcome to our Neurotech Society. Today we are very excited to be speaking to Professor Tim Constandinou. He is the director of the Next Generation Neural Interfaces Lab and a professor of bioelectronics at Imperial College London. Tim also leads a group within the UK Dementia Research Institute and is the co-founder of MintNeuro Technologies, a spin-out that focuses on implantable neural interfaces. Tim, it's absolutely an honour to have you here, and I was wondering if you could just start by giving us a bit of an introduction on what you're working on now and what you think you're going to be working on in the future.
So right now we've got quite a few projects. Basically, we're developing electronics for Neurotech. So we have one project which we're developing a chip, an electronic device for epilepsy neuromonitoring, and that's going to be used in a hospital trial in 2025. Conventionally, what is done today is for patients that are insensitive to medication. One of the best treatments is actually a surgical intervention where through resection surgery. So an invasive procedure where basically a lesion or part of the brain is cut, where it's the focus of an epileptic seizure. And in order to figure out where the focus is and if it's an operable region of the brain, there's an invasive process that currently happens in hospitals where a number of electrodes are implanted through the brain. So they drill a number of holes into your head. They put the electrodes in. And you're basically wired up to a hospital bed for 2-3 weeks. And so we're developing a portable, much smaller device, and kind of the longer term kind of vision is that the electronics will actually be embedded in the electrodes. So longer term, electrodes can be put in and the patient can go home. They can be monitored for say up to 3 months and then come back in and have the surgery as a separate procedure. So we're developing the first step to that is the chip that we're connecting to conventional electrodes in patients during their hospital visit, and that's going to be tested the year after next. So that's one project. As part of the UK Dementia Research Institute, we're developing technologies for neurodegenerative disorders. So specifically, two types of technologies we're developing is one, we're developing next generation deep brain stimulation. So really we're looking at beyond just addressing motor symptoms. So as you may know, DBS is used for motor symptoms in Parkinson's disease. So if you have a tremor, it can help manage that and suppress the tremor. But DBS doesn't do anything for all the other symptoms. So, for example, through stimulating deep brain regions, it might disrupt sleep. There might be challenges with staying vigilant during the day and things like that. And so, we're really looking at going into DBS patients, so patients that have these technologies, reprogramming the devices, and also looking at restoring sleep, daytime vigilance, and maybe seeing over a longer period of time what effect that has on their neurodegenerative condition. Also, in dementia patients, another technology we're developing is not an implantable technology, but we're developing radar. So the idea is that we'll have a very low-cost home deployable radar system, and using that, we'll be able to monitor physiology, so breathing, heart rates, but also behavior, movement patterns. And that will be used in 3 ways. One is getting longitudinal data on how the neurodegenerative condition is progressing over time. That's currently not possible. Secondly, because as a test bed for new therapies, so we'll be able to see how medicines or DPS or whatever is how effective it is in somebody's home environment. And the third use case is to actually intervene. So if you see someone's at a risk of a fall or has fallen, it'll be able to detect it. And there's no wearable component. There's nothing that the person living with dementia needs to do. This is just a passive technology that is mounted in the corner of the room. So very enthusiastic about that. We have the Ingenie project also running.
So many.
Yeah, we're trying to make implants chip scale, so really kind of making implants a couple of millimeters with the packaging and everything, so that the surgery can be minimally invasive in the future. So that's kind of 2 or 3 projects ongoing, but there are others as well.
Okay, that is incredible that you managed to fit everything in. Throughout all your projects, it seems like and even throughout your career, you've taken a very electronics-based approach to neural interfaces, neurotechnologies. Why did you choose to focus on the electronic side of things?
Good question. I guess electronics, when you're talking about an electronic neural interface, is all the technology, but it's often just a means to an end. And if you look at all the neurotechnology companies out there and a lot of the neurotech research, it's not using the latest technology, and the technology is actually limiting innovation. And so, for example, if you take a pacemaker, where you have an electronic circuit board inside a battery, some components, and this is the connector block where it connects to the lead, and it might go in the case of a pacemaker, it goes in the heart, but in the case of a deep brain stimulator, it's similar to this. This would go in the chest cavity, and the lead go under the skin into the brain. And the number of connections you can actually have between the circuit boards and the outside world are limited to 10 or 20. And that's both the electronics, but also an opportunity that semiconductor technology can bring. And so, there are key limitations such as power consumption. So how long does the battery last? That's a key issue. Making things smaller makes the surgery less invasive, but also making things more powerful. With semiconductor technology, we can integrate millions or billions of components in just kind of a few millimeters, and the whole neurotech industry isn't really exploiting that. And so I think with advanced semiconductor technology and with electronics, we can really have an impact in neurotech.
Amazing. Okay, and I was hoping you could also mention a bit about MintNeuro, the startup you co-founded. That sounds really, really exciting.
Yes, so that's kind of, so one of the things that as an academic, one of the things we want to achieve is impact. Obviously, we publish lots of papers, we do some trials, but what we really mean by impact is impact to society. And when you're developing kind of invasive implantable devices, it's actually very difficult from a university environment to actually develop devices and test them first in human trials, but then also to upscale and make them available. And so MintNeuro has been formed specifically to do that, to get some of the technologies we've been developing in the lab out there. And specifically, we're focusing on advanced semiconductor technology. So really bringing the latest and greatest technology that we know as electronic engineers and making it available to the neurotech community.
So bridging the gap between academia and industry.
Exactly.
Wow, okay, what are the challenges there? How hard is it? Because there aren't that many neurotech startups out there or companies. They're beginning to emerge, but you are one of the pioneers there, especially in the UK.
Yeah. I guess the challenges are kind of neurotechnology doesn't yet have an established ecosystem such as the semiconductor industry. So the semiconductor industry has suppliers, it has kind of vendors, it has different companies that bring in the intellectual property, and you could mix and match designs from different people and put it all together. The neurotech industry is now kind of taking off. If you look at all the neurotech companies out there, specifically, in implantables, how many actually have products out there? It's really the established companies, the Medtronics, Boston Scientific, Abbott, that actually have devices. Everybody else is just developing, is just in the development phase. And so there is a challenge from the ecosystem, meaning all aspects of the solution that need to be in place for something to be successful. It's not just about the technology being there and doing what it's supposed to do, or the scientific hypothesis behind what you're trying to do, or even the clinical need, but there also has to be a workable business model. You need to think about the workflow integration within the healthcare system, and then is it actually economically viable from a healthcare perspective? So all these things need to be in place, and then you've got the added constraints that we're working within a very heavily regulated space, and then there are ethical concerns, and so all these aspects, they all need to be addressed, otherwise a new technology will never see the light of day. And so that's why it's so challenging.
Wow, too many boxes to tick, almost, but very, very exciting. Okay, as a final question, I was wondering if you could give students a bit of advice as to how to best get into the field and what the field will look like, say, in a few years' time.
Good question. How to get into the field? I think the field is very, very multidisciplinary, so it's open to students from all backgrounds. If you use kind of my example, for instance, I studied electronic engineering. I didn't have a medical background. I didn't have any neuroscience background. I started PhD studies in the department, and during the first year of my PhD, I became involved with a startup that was developing a very low power chip technology, and that startup got contacted by a company developing cochlear implants, and they basically asked, can you apply your low power chip technology to cochlear implants, because we have an innovation where the limit now is the electronics, it's no longer the electrodes. And so during that first year, I developed a test platform for a cochlear implant, and I worked in this space, and I saw it was very easy for an electronic engineer to get involved in this space, even if you don't know the underlying medicine. And then my PhD was in neuromorphic electronics, so I was developing a vision sensor, so a chip like a camera, but to work in a similar way to the human eye. And so there I was reading a lot of medical textbooks and neuroscience, and again I saw that it was possible to apply my engineering training to a medical problem. And kind of throughout my whole career, I've really seen that it's learning to communicate to people of different disciplines. It's not that you need a double degree, you need a degree in medicine and a degree in engineering. And so there are a lot of disciplines out there that bring in their expertise, and all could have career paths towards neurotechnology. So I would say you need a broad understanding of what neurotechnology is about and the subdisciplines that could contribute, but you also need a core expertise, something that you bring and something that you're kind of an expert in. So that could be an electronic engineer, it could be a biomedical engineer, it could be design engineering, it could be material science, it could be computer science. All these, they bring something that's very valuable to a neurotech solution.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. You've covered stuff from going from starting a neurotech startup, the importance of electronics and how different disciplines intertwine into the field. And it's been really, really useful to hear your insights. And I really look forward to hearing about how your projects go in the future.
Thank you very much.